School at DACC. Hey MTV, welcome to my markhors.
I did a habitat usage study on the markhors Capra falconeri. There are 7 markhors at the zoo: Sunny, Eleanor, Julie, Harriet, Rosalind, Florence, and Haley. Harry and Florence are both 2 years old, and Rosalind is 1 year old. After seeing the arrival of Florence, Rosalind, and Harriet one day at the end of a zoo age shift, I wondered how the markhors were getting along and using their habitat. My null hypothesis states that there is not a significant difference between the mean amount of time spent in any zone of the habitat by the markhors at the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium, basically meaning that the largest wild goats spend equal time in all zones of their habitat. My alternative hypothesis states the exact opposite, saying that there is a significant difference between the mean amount of time spent in at least one zone of the habitat by the markhors at the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium. I went out and watched my goats 5 days out of the week, Monday through Friday, for about a half hour each day. I use a scan study because when those goats get moving, they move fast, and I can't keep up with 7 at a time. My study was also ex post facto because I couldn't do anything to influence the markhors' behavior, except for maybe jumping around and screaming, which I did not do. After running an ANOVA test on my data, I rejected my null hypothesis. Big surprise there. A follow-up Tucky test showed that the markhor spent the most time in Zone 5, out of sight, but since Haley was downstairs for all but 4 days of data collection, I decided that information was skewed and focused on the next data points. The markhor spent the most time on the right side of the habitat, zones B1 and B2, followed by the left side, zones A1 and A2. Next were the walls, zones A3 and B3, and then finally the trenches, zone 4. Markhors love to be on rocks. That's where they are naturally in the wild, so it makes sense that our markhors here love to spend their time on the big rocks. We can learn from the study that they prefer the right side of their habitat over the left. Perhaps this means they prefer to have as little human contact as possible since we are separated by glass on that side, but that's a different study and I can't speak goat, so I couldn't ask them. Keepers can learn from my study that our goats like the right side, so they could put more food or enrichment on the side that the markhors prefer. In conclusion, markhors are pretty awesome. The study performed implies that the markhors like to spend time on the right side of the habitat, and that keepers could place enrichment on that side for a better chance of interaction. Anyway, MTV, that was my thesis, and I hope you enjoyed my markhors.